I'm Dwayne Brummett. He's Ali Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Hello again, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Alberigo, schoolownertalk.com. Ali, great to be with you, sir. And we've got a very special guest with us today.
We do, absolutely. And it's great to be here. And I'm excited to be with my good friend. And we just got to hang out maybe about 2 months ago in Florida. And it was one of my deciding factors to actually fly to Florida just to hang out with him. And it didn't disappoint. Like every time we're together, it's like yesterday, like we were on the set of The Cutoff in 97 and then the other film after that. And it feels like we're like, for me, at least, I feel like nothing has skipped a beat, total comfortable around you. We still joke about things that, we used to joke about. It's just great being around you and hanging out with you. And I'm glad to have you back on our podcast.
Thanks. No, that's likewise. And I said the same thing. Anytime we're together, it's like it hasn't missed a beat. You would have thought we just hung out Monday night.
Yep, exactly.
And I was just gonna say real quickly for the listeners, not the viewers, but the listeners, it's John Geyston who we have on today. So
yes, I was just gonna introduce him, but that's right. I forgot that part. So it's the same with Dwayne too. Like I wish we lived closer together because I'm sure periodically we get dinner and hang out or whatever. But where Dwayne and I are together every week, it almost feels like we do that, but it's virtual. So, no high-fiving in real time and that kind of stuff. But it's just great to be around like-minded people.
Well, we tried that one time. We broke the camera. So
yeah, there you go. So that's the truth. All right. So listen, so today we're here to kind of celebrate, not kind of, but to celebrate another great thing that John has accomplished, and that's writing a book. Now, Dwayne, you've written many books. I've written a few books. It's not an easy task. It's like people think it's easy to write a book, and it's not. It's grueling. The process is grueling. Making sure that it's set up right is you're getting an editor, somebody to look through it all, and then to go to release it, even if you have a publisher or if you don't have a publisher, self-publishing. So what a great accomplishment, John. Just remember that in your head, though, because you're going to be the guy like me, like Dwayne and I, that move on to the next biggest task. You're probably thinking of book 2 already and other things you could be doing, but just kind of sit in that achievement space because this is a big deal. It really, really is. And I'm proud of you as a friend, but Dwayne and I know it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no, and thank you. And I'm glad you said that because I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Right.
Even when you get close, when you're done and you hand it off and say, it took me forever to send the manuscript because I'm like, maybe I should go through it one more time tomorrow and see if I can make any changes.
Yeah.
This is the direction I want to go. Do I want to change anything in that? Because then you feel it's so permanent once you press the send button.
Because it's there. It's now cemented in time. My first book, Beginner Guide to NIMPO, my first attempt at writing and self-publishing a book, it took me like 7 years, like you said, with that process where I go back in and reread it and almost change the entire dynamics. I don't want to go down that direction anymore. Let me go this way. And I kept rewriting until I finally said, I'm never going to have a book out until I just say, this is the way it is. It's done. I could always write a book 2 or an edited version. But if I keep looking and reading it, I'm going to keep changing it and never have it ready. And that is tough for an author because we're perfectionists when it comes to our message.
Yeah. But the problem is, though, when you especially like for 7 years, if you can take 7 years to write that book, you're a different person 7 years from now than you were 7 years earlier. So absolutely. Every day we're a different person. So yeah. I mean, I don't know that I agree. It's difficult. But I decided, like for myself, I decided good was good enough. And so, my biggest thing for me was spelling, because my spelling is atrocious. And I write conversationally, like just as if I was having a conversation. So it is not I do not write well with regards to how you're supposed to write in English. So
yeah,
those were my two, two things that I had to overcome. But for me, good was good enough. But anyways, real quickly, Embrace Your Awesomeness. I'm curious with that book. Yeah, very good, very good. Where can we get copies? I know Allie already has one.
It's on Amazon.
It just went live actually 2 days ago. Today's
Monday.
Monday. It went live Monday. So
okay.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of a hard time getting Amazon to pull the book up because it's brand new. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you type in John Geyston as one search, or Embrace Your Awesome and then John's name for it to actually show up, and then you have it. But as it progresses, it'll be right there the minute you hit it.
Well, and our listeners too, we'll make sure that we put it in our, we'll find the link, put it in the post here.
I'll do that.
And then on schoolandertalk.com, we'll make sure that we put that on there as well. But Embrace Your Awesomeness. It's a journal to empower kids to build self-confidence. So what was the idea behind it?
It's really a reflection. Like if I think about me, and I wrote a few people, wrote Allie, and for me, I didn't have I had a confused life, not a bad life. So father passed away when I was 4 in a car accident. Oh, and then kind of like his entire family, like I was outcasted, not connected to, felt outcasted. I wasn't, but so, that impact, I remember they held me back in first grade because I didn't speak that entire year. I was just like numb. And, my mom, she had me at 17, so she never finished high school. She became a mom instead of finishing high school. So once he died, we were moving around. So I was in 4 different grade schools by the time of 3rd grade. So you put all the reserve on the guy that's going to go sit in the background and just chill and not say much. I never weighed 50 pounds till 4 months after my 10th birthday. So I was small. So I was always being bullied. And, and when it gets down to, that's where the whole martial art journey started at 9. But when you get down to it, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I fit in. And, it's just like I talked to a parent this week about, hey, have you ever sat down and talked to your child about self-esteem? Well, yeah, I tell them that they got to believe in themselves. Defining what is self-esteem, because I think some people think we're born with it. It's not. It's something that's developed. And who we hang out with, who can impact it either in the right direction or even sink it, right? Depending on who we're with. So, my whole thing was, if I removed, as we just talked a little bit ago, if I remove the punching and the kicking from the martial arts, the reason the martial arts makes an impact is that character development in there. So my goal with the book was, how can I impact people beyond my 4 walls with the same messages that were, if you were sitting with me in my academy or you came to me and said, I have this problem with my child, what would I say? And that was kind of the direction I went, and it's, I sat on this book. I don't know if you'll remember, I think over 99, 2000 is when I said, I'm going to write a book. And I have a bunch of scattered notes. And I got injured after the PANS with my knee, and I was out with treatment for 12 weeks. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the 12 weeks to organize this, and I'm going to write this book. And I did it. And every day I wondered what I was doing, because it was like, as trying to go back and grab notes from 20 years ago, like I wouldn't even say that today.
Yeah.
And, trying to reorganize it. But that's when I made the commitment. But I think for me, it was, where was I as a child, and what could have changed if I had somebody there for me? And, and when did my life change? And the martial arts probably had the biggest impact on my life than anything. So, that was the whole motivation of wanting to do it. Or because we can only reach so many people, as all 3 of us know, inside our academy.
Right.
So
I think what I liked most, like I actually was on my way to the doctor. I walked out, and on my steps was the delivery from Amazon. I grabbed it. I had to sit in the doctor's office and just started reading it, and then came home and finished the book. It's got so many great tips in it. and then it has a journaling section. So immediately you and I spoke later that night, and I'm like, I see this as something that school owners could buy 20 copies of and give them to their leadership team. Or an instructor could just take it and use it as a training manual. Like I wrote a book called The 5 Gateways to Happiness that one martial art woman took to Uganda, and she did it and taught my book in a seminar to women that were physically abused in this country that doesn't have much mental health care support. So like I see this book as that same kind of thing, where I'm going to buy a bunch of copies and give them to my entire leadership team. And then I'm going to do the different chapters as different leadership lessons each week, because it's that powerful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
A lot because I know you've written and I know you read a lot. And, so that means a lot to me. And it's, as I said, that it's a struggle to let go.
Right.
To release that book, because you're like, oh, maybe I could do something different with. I don't know if that chapter is 100% where I want it to be. And then it's like you feel like, man, if I hit this send button to my editor, it's like go.
Right.
It took me 3 days. Like, I'll look at it again tomorrow.
Yeah. So Dwayne, you said before you just wrote your books and deployed them and got them out. Did you self-publish all your books?
I did self-publish all my books. Yeah.
Now, did you have a literary guy or person to read through them? And because I know I did, and I hired some random literary agent, and the critiques that I got were so off the wall. Like, what does that have to do with being a ninja? And I'm telling the story, a story of philosophy. I'm like, it has everything to do with ninjutsu, but they thought it all had to do with running around with swords and masks. And I had to go through a few different people that just until someone finally understood what I was trying to accomplish in my books. Did you guys have struggles in that regard, like with the people who are proofreading or content wise, or you were your own people?
I used I had somebody that guided me the entire time, an editor, and I shouldn't say an editor, probably my lead person, and then they connected me to an editor. They connected me to the book design. And no, the editor I would get, it was a great feedback. I never had any there would be comments like, I don't know if an 8-year-old uses the word perseverance. Maybe we need to change that, and which was great. Those were positive things. And I'm like, well, I don't know how do you say perseverance into an 8-year-old? Because, you got any, that's your job, isn't it? Tell me what word. So
grit.
Yeah. So it's I always joke with my own students, I make up words. I'll say to stick to it for this.
Yeah. We all say, I love that.
But I knew that wasn't going to fly in the book with the editor. So I'm like, okay, what is that? So, no, but it's, I definitely relied on other people. I think that's the one thing that the martial art traits taught us, right? Is look towards the mentors, look to the ones who are before us and who have done this, who have the experience, and follow what they say and cut that learning curve. So I relied 100% on anything that they said.
Yeah. I love, like, in the first opening, I mean, of course you have your author's notes and all that other stuff, but the first chapter, which I don't know if you did this intentionally, but I think probably if you didn't, you subconsciously did it, but like benefits of self-esteem and confidence, right? That's literally the foundation of everybody's skill set in the world. Because if they have no self-esteem and confidence, they won't be able to do anything, right? Yeah. So what's your thought? Because I have to honestly say, like, I talk to parents, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but the modern day parent is clueless. They want, like, on my intake form, they'll say self-discipline, self-defense, self-esteem, focus, control. They just check every single box. And I'll say to them, what is self-discipline? And they go, I want them to do what they're told to do. Like, they don't really even know how to achieve it at home. So we're teaching this stuff at school, at our dojos, our schools, but the parents don't know how to do it at home. So we have no reinforcement. So what do you think, Dwayne? I saw that finger come up there.
No,
only a little bit. Was that your finger or my finger?
I was giving you no, just kidding. No. I think it goes back to, and I've talked about this before, is clear is kind. And so if if we're not able to, for us, if we're not able to disseminate what the definition is and how we're going to accomplish it, how can we even expect the parents to do that? And for us, as already have had children that are now, I mean, John, how old is your youngest?
My youngest will be 14.
14, so pretty close. I mean, not an adult yet, but I mean, you've been through it.
Yeah.
So, for us on the other side of that, helping them with those definitions and helping them to define those things and giving them those skills, or at least some tools to utilize at home. But the problem I find, I don't know about you guys, is the parents are in their phones doing this thing while the kid's out on the floor. They're not listening to a mat chat. They're not listening to any phrases that are being said. Now, that being said, the ones that are really good parents are. They're the ones that go to the parent-teacher conferences when they don't need to show up to the parent-teacher conferences.
Right.
At the traditional schools. It's the ones that, they didn't have either the modeling when they were younger, or they don't have the wherewithal to even decide that they want to learn how to be a better parent.
Yeah, I think that we carry forward, right? So if somebody didn't share that with me and someone just shared that with my mother and my father, how am I expected to carry it forward unless we're in an environment that's, doing that? And it's just the same thing I was saying before about self-esteem. It's not, self-esteem is not something that just naturally happens. First, we got to understand it. Like, what does that mean? Hey, that moment, that's what I was telling the parent. Talk to your child and ask them if they understand what self-esteem is. Not talk to them about self-esteem. Ask them if they understand what self-esteem is. That's that moment, and ask them to reflect. And that's where we put the journaling in the book. Was I really wanted them to reflect too on what we just talked about. But when's a moment that you felt really good about who you are? And that, asking the child. And then when's a time that you felt really bad about who you are? What triggered those two things? And talking about those, and then them understanding that there's things, not to get too, but energy, what I'm eating, what I'm exercising, the group that I'm with, those are all going to have an impact on how I feel. My muscles hurt when I don't do enough water, right? So physically, but the self-esteem is the same way. And someone can either contribute to your self-esteem going the direction we want it to, or can contribute to it going the opposite direction. And they need to understand, I think those high and lows are going to happen, and that's normal. Self-esteem is developed and growing through our experiences and the people around us. So I agree. I think there's so many people say, I want my child to believe in themselves. Well, what are we doing to get them there?
Right.
Well, and then okay, this might be the easiest way, I think, to prove this point. How many times have you guys ever had you had to have a parent conference with the child because they got into a fight? Your own student got into a fight, and they either, sometimes they didn't win the fight. And the reason is they didn't fight back. And so the parent is like, I told them that, well, I don't understand. I'm sending them here. They didn't fight back. And then after we have our discussions, we find out that mom and dad said, you can only do karate in the karate studio.
Right.
You can't. What they meant was no horsing around outside of the karate studio. What the kid heard was, I can only do these things in these four walls. So when I go to school and if somebody attacks me, I'm going to get in trouble by my parent.
Yes.
Right. And so
it's the mixed message, the mixed message for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation. And then the parent is like, well, that's not what I meant. I understand, but that's what you said. It was inferred that way. And so I go back to that statement, clear is kind. And so you really have to be clear on the definitions when you are saying things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. It's, and then you put the dynamics of they're scared.
Yes.
They're being humiliated, in front of people and all this. And now we're trying to well, is my parents going to be mad? Did I break the rule of doing karate outside of karate? Is the teacher gonna be upset with me and hate me and never like me in class again? There's so many things those kids have to deal with. And I mean, bowling was a part of my life, but man, today it's 24/7. You can't get away from it.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Now the social media is going to follow it.
Yeah.
So now not only are you dealing with that, like I'm dealing with that. Let's say, Dave and Danny's picking on me on the playground, pushing me around and stuff. Well, I go home, I'm away from it. Nowadays it's not. No. But also, maybe 4 people saw it, but now it's everybody sees it because they put it on. They put it on social media. So, wow. And I mean, what a time for self-esteem to be more important than ever before.
I told Allie that I think as martial arts school owners, we are the last line of defense.
Absolutely.
I mean, the parents don't know. I shouldn't say. A lot of parents don't know what they're doing, and they're not equipped for statements that we've talked about before. The school system is overrun. They're overworked. They don't even have backup from their higher ups. So even if the teacher wants to enforce the law, they can't because their administrators aren't doing it. You know what I'm saying? So like my wife works at a school district and I mean, and then you guys all work with a lot of teachers, I'm sure. You go into the schools and so you hear these stories. So I really believe that now more than ever, as a martial arts school owner, we have a duty, an obligation to somehow not only save these kids and be the last line of defense, but man, if we can get the parents and to understand and then disseminate that information to them so they can back us up and really in the grand scheme of things, help their child in the future. We're in the best business. We really are.
Yeah.
I wrote a leadership lesson called Rules of Engagement, and it came back from when I was a kid because my mom had a clear defined rule that if I got hit, picked on, or pushed around, that I could fight back. And even if I got suspended, she would take me out for ice cream as long as I was in the right. Nowadays, it's such a mixed message. So I have parents writing a clear line of rules of engagement. If a kid does this, what can you do? Because like you said, there's too much room for interpretation. And then the school system is zero tolerance for violence, no matter whether it was your fault or not. They could have put your head in the toilet and you fought back. Now you're suspended. So we have to be careful with that. But I do like at the end of your chapters, you have your journaling, right? But at the end of the chapter, you kind of sum it up and you give the reader 2 choices to think about. Like right here on the self-esteem thing, you have factors that affect your self-esteem, which I thought was excellent because to me, it's got to be clear. Like Dwayne said, clear as kind. Like, so what can affect your self-esteem? And then you have them journal about things that they've been through so that they could get it out on paper. Like, maybe they don't even realize this is happening, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's, yes, 100%. And I mean, I never, I'm the oldest one out of the group here. So, I came up in an era of tough guys, John Wayne and blah, blah, blah. And you don't cry, you don't show your feelings, blah, 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 blah. Well, we need to. I mean, it's how do we? So the journaling part was really to think what can we want to promote self-awareness and being mindful of it and exploring how we actually felt. And in the book too, I say just write. Don't worry if it's misspelled. Don't worry about just how you're feeling. Put it out there.
Yeah, don't worry if it's correct. Don't worry if other people are going to see it. You wrote that in there too. I thought that was important, so people could write what they feel.
Throwing it out there. And I think that is, so, as an adult, that's the journaling part and just reflecting who we are, coming into touch with who we are. And, at the end of the day, and the martial arts, I always tell my students all the time in every class. And specifically now that, it's more jiu-jitsu for me in Tampa, it's still 50-50 Kempo and jiu-jitsu in Illinois school. But, jiu-jitsu is not you don't feel good about yourself your first year. I mean, you go to jiu-jitsu and you just get destroyed. You don't know how to move right. Someone just laid you and pinned you, stapled you to the ground. You look like a dead carcass on the road of an animal that didn't make it across. And how do you walk out of there feeling good about yourself? But you gotta find them small victories. Like, hey, you only tapped me out 7 times. Usually you give me 10. Yeah. So I'm getting better. right? So, I always joke. So it's looking for those small victories, but also is embracing the weakness.
Right.
We've been taught to hide our weakness, rationalize our weakness. And, by accepting it and saying, hey, this is my weakness. Well, if I don't identify my weakness, how can I ever start to develop it to not be as weak? Maybe it never becomes a strength, but maybe it's not a weakness. Maybe it's just a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
And, I think that's where the parallels with martial arts. It's what can I do to identify my weakness and to develop that, and I tell my kids, imagine if I have 5 weaknesses and all I do for the next year is focus on making my 5 weaknesses better. What if I never had a weakness? Right. So, if we can develop them into strength. Now that is a zero reality. We would have to stop life, not ever do anything again.
Mm-hmm.
But the ideal is to embrace weakness, and I think we've all been to hide. We've been taught to hide. At least I was in my generation of coming up. We don't talk about our weakness. We don't. Oh, you're doing okay. You're better than you think you are. No, really, I'm not.
Right.
Really, I got armbar 5 times. My armbar defense is not good.
Yeah.
So
there's another great book that I'm actually listening to. There's 2 jujitsu books. One was called On Jujitsu. I listened to the audio, phenomenal short book, about an hour and a half on audio. Then the next one I'm reading is by Henner Gracie called The 32 Principles of Jiu-Jitsu. Yes. And it's not necessarily about jiu-jitsu, although it is, but it's about what you just said, how to work on what you need to work on, and how all these trials and tribulations are what makes you a better person, not necessarily jujitsuing, but that of course is the end result. But I love that. And I found that in your book as well, where like your chapters, the way they're set up, they're like literally set up in a way where each lesson and the journaling, like if I immediately, I'm sorry, I did this right away. I immediately started to think, how can I take his book and use it in my school and, make my school better through his book? And I'm like, wow, I'm going to buy these copies. So I want to work with and I have a lot of leadership team members that need exactly these lessons. They're phenomenal. So like, when you go through them, did you think to yourself, like, what are the steps? How should I coordinate the order of the chapters so that they're journaling from beginning to end, or did it just so happen to be so succinctly organized?
That was the hard part for me, because I'm like, what comes first?
Right.
Where do we start? Do I start with self-esteem? Do I move into where's gratitude? Where is friendships?
Right.
Where is letting go of negativity of friendships? And
that was there's like a lot of good stuff.
What order should it be in? And that I gotta say, that was the biggest challenge. And so I would love to say, psychologically, I had this planned out.
Yeah.
I think it was really like, you know what? I think if we don't talk about self-esteem early, then it's a thing that is going to guide the rest of it. So I didn't really have a method. No, I just.
It certainly feels like you did, because like the second chapter, the importance of positive self-talk.
Yes.
Like, I think that, look, even I fall, I want sometimes compliments from my wife and daughter. So I'll be like, oh man, I'm looking so old. I'm fat. I'm out of shape. My wife's like, no, you're not. I'm like, you're just saying that, I don't know what I want from her, but I want, I just want those compliments. Right. So we all have negative self-talk. Like it's almost impossible not to. And no matter how confident we are, how good we are, whatever we do, we're always questioning. It's just a part of the human function of the brain. So I love that chapter, about explaining what that is and how. Can you just give us a little insight on that? And Dwayne,
I felt that was a good place to, if I'm going to talk about self-esteem, we obviously know that other people impact that.
Right.
But how can I impact it myself? Because the greatest conversation that I'm going to have every day is with myself, and we talk to myself more than we talk to anybody else. But what are we saying?
Yeah.
So it's I felt that like how we speak to ourselves. I catch myself now, at 61, and last year, as I went out and I never competed in jiu-jitsu. I walked away from competing in karate, which I competed for 14, 15 years. At 35, 36, I kind of like just shifted about the time that we met. I shifted away from competing. And so I hadn't competed. So I got back out there and did it. Well, I've been bone to bone on my left knee from kickboxing, not from jiu-jitsu, from the kickboxing days back in between 35 and 40. And 40 was the big injury where I tore several things in the left knee. And I'm out there, and my point of that is I'm out there pushing my body, and I'm like, man, okay, I'll do okay for a 60-year-old. And I'm thinking that's not positive. I gotta do okay for me. I gotta do, I catch myself having self-talk where I'm accepting my knee hurts,
right?
My back hurts. Well, I'm 60. And some guy, one of my students the other day said, "How are you so fast at your age?" I said, "What does that mean?" My age. And he said, "Well, every time I pass you, I turn around and you're like a time traveler. You're right there." I said, "Okay, perfect. Thank you." At first, I thought you just thought I was doing pretty good for a 60-year-old. Like I didn't meet, like I exceeded maybe your standard of what an old guy should do.
Yeah.
But what you're telling me is that I'm quicker than you are at 30. And he says, I said, "All right, perfect, man. Thank you." And that was my feedback. Like, what? Yeah. Fine. I'm not going to choke you any harder just because you said I was old.
Yeah.
So I think, sometimes even in an unintentional way or subconsciously, we may rationalize in those little things like that. If I start saying, well, this is a good weight at my age, metabolism slows down as we get older. No, you push it to be better. This is a good range of motion. This is a good, I don't have to, do this. I'm older, I don't have to do as much physical work now, blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, what are we saying to ourselves over and over? And with kids are so much like, that self-talk, I think, is very important. And no one taught me that. I learned that later in life in Tony Robbins, I think, was the first person to pick that up, So, and I mean, I'm in my 30s by that time. So, and I think it's very important that they even understand that we have to have positive conversations. We have to be very careful of every word that comes out of our mouth about ourselves. Yeah. Or maybe it doesn't speak, we speak, because then they start thinking you're weird and talking to people.
Right.
But we are having that conversation, even though it's not coming out of our mouth, we're speaking it to ourselves. And
right.
What seed am I planting in here about who I am and what I'm capable of?
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to, what wolf am I feeding?
Yes.
I love that saying.
100%. Yeah. I heard somebody the other day talk about the word unbelievable. I think it was Matthew McConaughey actually in the interview. And he was talking about the word unbelievable. And he goes, "It's such a silly word." Like, I can't, that guy's performance was unbelievable. Obviously not, because he just performed it.
Right.
Yes. It's very believable,
Yeah.
But we just throw that. Oh, this person's attitude was unbelievable. Well, no.
Right.
You actually experienced it. So, and there's things to experience, and we write things off. Even the things that are right in front of us, we say, I would never be that good. Okay. Well, that person probably thought the same thing. Like, we all have this. All of our students think that we're gods with a small G when we do things right. When I always say, after 46 years, I've almost gotten this down.
Yeah.
That's what they got to remember. So,
and also too, like I'm sure you all have heard this before too, where you're in front of the kid and the parents are talking like they weren't there, going, "He's not the most talented. He's not the most coordinated. He's not the smartest." Like I know even Sebastian Maniscalco, the comedian, he has a little thing going where he goes, "I would go to my grandfather's house and my grandfather would say, put him in the basement with the couch. He's not going to be able to do anything else. He's an idiot," like right in front of the kid. Well, I haven't had it to that extreme, but I have had parents say things that I'm going, it's immediately damaging to their self-esteem and their confidence. Where did they, I guess they learned that from their parents and they've never been taught. So it's pretty scary. I know I was thinking, Dwayne, when John was saying about attitude and health, you do this on a day-to-day basis with your health coaching, right? Where your people they're kind of giving up, right? And you have to encourage them to and then they lose 40, 50, 60. That you could see the difference in their facial expressions, you know, and how they look just by those wins. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, to kind of piggyback on what John had said, the language is so important because we'll talk even in our check-in calls, and I'll say, all right, you know, like what are our scale and non-scale victories this week? And well, I only lost a pound or 1.2 pounds, let's say. Well, first of all, let's talk about the word only.
Yeah.
You know, second of all, let's take a look at the average for a woman. For you is about 1 to 2 pounds this week. So you're right in the average of where you should be. Losing too fast is not good, you know, for your internal organs anyways. So that's a great healthy weight loss. And let's put it in perspective. 1 pound is 4 sticks of butter. So you lost almost 5 sticks of butter. If it was 1.2 pounds, it's almost 5 sticks of butter that you took off of your body. Oh, I didn't realize that. So it's like, first, you know, again, language is important. First of all, let's look at the word only.
It's those little things, right, that make a difference.
But, you know, to what John said, we have to analyze that for ourselves because we do it to ourselves. You know, I say this, I definitely, I could be better. I've chosen not to, maybe partly because it's still a thing that I believe in of myself. But when I was younger, I had a real difficult time learning spelling words. And I can remember my dad saying, you know, he calling me stupid. And I can remember that. And so that's still a difficulty for me today. Now, one thing that I decided is when I decided that I was going to have kids, that was a word that I was never, ever going to use with my kids. Man.
Yeah.
Ever.
I have a guy, he's now a retired cop, started with me in 1992. And as he was doing class, I said to him, don't be stupid and do this, right? And I remember that he looked at me and said, I'm stupid. Like, and it was like devastating to him. Like it really took me months and months to apologize and get over that one, like, don't be stupid. Like, you know, we used to say things like that in normal conversation, but for him, it was devastating. And I asked him 30 years later if he remembered that. And he said, absolutely. So like, that was so damaging.
So he was an adult then or a child then?
And he was a child back in when I said it.
Okay.
And then grew up and joined the police. And still 30 years later, I asked him if he remembered that. Yeah. And he said, yes.
That's how powerful it is.
Wow. It's crazy. Right?
Certain words stick. Like, I don't know with you guys, like the word that I cannot stand to be in reference is lazy. My mom used to say, you're being lazy. You're being lazy. And that would I'm not being lazy.
Yeah.
And, man, that's a word that sticks with me because obviously it has some type of negative impact to my past.
Right.
I don't know exactly where it's at.
Yeah,
but man, that's a word like if Amy knows, never tell me on Sunday that I'm having a lazy Sunday, even if you mean it in a positive way. Because that word lazy makes me want to fight.
It makes you want to get up and cut the lawn, even though you cut it the day before. Like, I'll do something.
Far from lazy.
Right.
But I think there's words that trigger something in us that, and most likely is the word with what you used. It was an innocent.
Yeah. Well,
in an innocent way.
Man. Yeah, but so bad.
No, 100%.
I grew up, you know, where we would I don't even want to use the word we'd call the R word between friends. You know, don't be a retard. Right? I'll say it. But that was like common Long Island talk with your best friend. You know, now if I even say that word, which I just did, my daughter's probably in the office going like, don't say that word. Like she gets angry with me, you know, and, we would say it for fun. So like things have changed. But then again, like another thing in your book that I love, and I feel like Dwayne, remember when you did an interview on my book and you called it Dwayne Grills Alley. Like, I feel like I'm going through the chapters because I just want to share so much with the reader so that they get this book and share with all their students. It's amazing.
You were the first feedback that I got, you know, because it's been out 48 hours and you immediately had the book and you were like,
I already did a review. I got the book.
Well, no, and I was so interested to know, and there's a part of me like, don't put me down too hard. You know?
Right.
Well, you don't have to say it. You send it out there and you just don't know. I mean,
yeah, you're afraid. I get it as an author. Like, look, this is how I feel as a martial artist. Like, I want everyone to love everything I do. When I first started teaching around the world, I wanted everyone to be a ninjutsu student. It was the best art in the world. Nothing was better. Everyone should join my school, my organization, and train with me. And I realized later on that, quite quickly, that was an unrealistic goal. So I said, how can I help people? So that's why I became a coach, because I figured if I could help school owners teach their art better, then I'm impacting more people through the martial arts, right? So that's why being an author is so important. But I would read reviews and I get annoyed. Like, even on my stuff, it's not worth the paper it was written on. I got one of those. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I have a few negative reviews on my books, and they are quite painful. Like, when you take them in. So I once asked Chris Angel, he's a very famous magician. I said, how do you deal? I go, how do you deal with all, the criticisms? He says, I don't read them.
Yeah.
I don't bother. He says, I don't care what people say. I'm going to do what I do, and people who love it, love it. If people hate it, and that's it. So you got to be careful with letting their opinions get you.
I posted a video I shared because it resonated with me because the book was coming out.
Right.
And it was Rick Rubin in an interview. And he says, you can't control people are going to, you produce.
Right.
And you produce and you throw it out there and you're using your gift. And as long as you know that you gave it your best shot, your best effort, and that's your gift, and you're sending that out to God.
Yeah.
And who likes it, and who doesn't. You hope everybody does, but you got to understand that they're not. But you got to do it for you.
Well, I recently, within the last 4 years, got a review written on me on Google, and the guy wrote the review, and it was amazing what he was talking about in the review that made me think, like, it's like when you had, he's a little man who has like a Napoleon complex with his Corvette and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I haven't had a Corvette since 1998, right? Like what, that's how he had a problem back in 98. And now he has the power of Google behind him. And he wrote a review as if it were yesterday. And none of it was true. So I basically just wrote, I'm sorry you felt upset, but I haven't owned a Corvette in 10 years, 15 years. Like, are you kidding me? You just wrote this review now? Like, you're getting around to it. So you can't let that bother you and ever let it affect you.
Yeah.
Well, and John, I don't know about you. I mean, selfishly for me, and maybe, sounds to me like you're a better man than me. But the only reason I wrote the books was because I wanted my clients and then also my area to see us in a different light. I mean, I wanted them to see that we're more than a kick and punch studio, and it's being taught that our students are being taught well more than just the kicking and punching and those type of things. So I didn't really care what anybody else thought. I guess maybe I do. I just kind of, like Ali said, I didn't look at anything. I didn't read anything. Didn't get any, and all the feedback that I got was from my own parents, and when they read the book or whatever. And then of course I'd get those testimonials and use those. So,
yeah. And by the way, John, your book is more of a self-help working journal book. So it's different than just reading. So I think that a lot of school owners would be able to put this into their curriculum or sell them in their lobby or do it in their leadership team. So you have a big future ahead of you with this book.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. That was not the intent, but 2 or 3 people have again, when I say 2 to 3, it's just because the book's been out 48 hours.
Right.
That have gotten it already have said the same thing. And the arts are like, dude, this is so we've set up bulk rates and everything now for, like, if someone wants to order them for their.
Well, get me that link so I can buy a bunch of them.
I will do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was going to say, since you brought that up, how do people get a hold of you if they do want to get that information?
Obviously, the Facebook, and then my email is jgpma@jgpma.com. The same one I've had forever. I really need to change it, guys. But
so what is it? JG
PMA
at
jgpma.com.
PMA.com. Okay.
Now, the PMA used to stand for something different, but I always tell people now it's John Geyston, the prettiest martial artist.
There you go. For bulk, I'm writing it in our line.
That's what you just experienced there is self-talk. Positive self-talk.
Exactly.
Still the prettiest martial artist ever.
That's awesome.
Well, isn't that the PMA, positive mental attitude? So
yes.
So we're running out of time.
That might sound better for the book.
Yeah.
Positive mental attitude.
Good. You see that? We learn everything. It's like when I had my DNA, that little worksheet that I used to give
daily necessary activities.
But it really was made by the DNA of a body. I wanted it to be like the nucleus of what a school is all about. And one of my clients once said, "This is the daily necessary activities." I'm like, "Wow, that's a great idea. Let's call it that." So things come out of other things. So I'm not going to go over all the chapters because there's so much. I mean, the book is packed with info. It's let's see how many. It's like what is it? 100 something pages long. Let's just see. 105 pages.
Hey, John, let's say that a school owner wants to use it. How would you recommend them to use it, and what format?
I think there's, and again, I didn't write it in that sense, but some people are seeing, I'm like, oh, I naturally see what that is. I think with a leadership team, I think is mat chats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm even thinking of probably doing an online course with printable, it's pretty much the same book.
Yeah.
Some of the worksheets for the people that, if they do the quantity purchases for the school, then making the worksheets printable to them on a PDF that they can use for mat chats and hand out to the kids.
Yeah. So. I also, there's another book that I was giving out to all of my prospect parents that came in for their first lesson. It was by Matthew Brenner, and it was called Black Belt Parenting. Phenomenal book on how to incorporate martial arts.
Yes.
And I would buy them in bulk. And then when new parent came in, it's a $20 book. I get it wholesale, of course, but I would give it out to the new parents. And it was a really good thing to give because it tied the lessons of what we taught in class similarly into their home life. So I could see a parent in the dojo wanting to do this workbook with their child as well.
Yes.
Like if they went, I mean, I know this, maybe them journaling is a little bit personal, but maybe a parent has a copy and then asks the question and then maybe they could work it out together.
Yeah. Or guiding them to
yeah. Because they might not understand.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a great way too. I think that's phenomenal.
And a good connection.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that the thing with martial arts is that we don't get that buy-in from the parents that, let's say, they get when they're a baseball coach or their kids play baseball and they go to the games and take them to the professional teams games and buy the yearbooks and the jerseys and all that. We don't have that because parents are a little bit afraid to coach because they don't know unless they've done martial arts before. This is a great way to connect those two, the two activities, dojo or martial arts school, and the parenting and the lessons that you teach together.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm glad you see that in there.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's a great. I'm excited about it. We got to get Dwayne to get JGPMA at jgpma.com for bulk orders.
And then John Geyston on Facebook and message me there. So yeah.
And Geyston is Gayston.
Geyston.
So in closing, getting ready to close, what other things have we not asked or mentioned or brought up that we should have that you would have liked us to ask so that we can?
I think we talked. This is I'm used to coming on talking martial arts. I've never talked a book, so right. But no, there was really nothing more. I mean, I don't know, Ali, I think you were gonna ask another question on another chapter, but
yeah, no, I was just saying, like, I mean, there's so many other chapters. I mean, I'll just let me give people idea, like of what they have to look forward to really quickly. So there's some stuff with dealing with negative relationships. Man, that's a big one these days.
Yes.
I remember my poor daughter, she's 24 now, but I remember one day she was probably like in 7th or 8th grade. She had a cell phone early on because that was my way of staying connected with her through our my ex-wife and I's divorce. And I remember sitting on the couch and I could see her eyes welling up with tears, right? She made a mistake and she's not a big football fan. It was Super Bowl Sunday. Some kids in a group text mentioned the football game. My daughter's like, I think football's stupid. And that was all that set off this whole group of girls. They were brutal with her, like constantly attacking her over and over and over again. She kept saying, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it that way. They kept going. Finally, I'm like, grab the phone. I'm reading these texts. I'm like, kiddo, don't worry about it. Don't respond anymore. She went to bed and her phone was still buzzing. I could hear it. So I pick up the phone and they're still going. I was like, listen, you girls better stop now or I'm going to come to your house and beat every one of your dads up. Like, I'm not taking this crap from my daughter. I'm coming there in 15 minutes. And then there was like silence. And we deleted the text and they didn't continue but they were brutal. Yes. Like those, and my daughter kind of thought that they were friends and they were so vicious over such a silly comment. And so this is what our kids deal with. And I love that chapter. Like that one chapter is a powerful one too, because kids want friends and they'll deal with crap and being treated badly.
And accept the negativity because they value the friendship more than they value the value of the friendship's not great, but they don't want that person.
Right.
Either for popularity or because we've been friends since kindergarten.
Right.
Well, maybe now we've outgrown each other.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Dwayne? You were laughing. Like
I was only laughing because how did you describe them, repeating the text over and over again? You said vicious.
Yeah, they were vicious.
Yeah, but yet your response was, "I'm going to come back."
Yeah, well, but
I'm going to kick your dad's butt.
Yeah, but that was after, and I agree with you. Like, no, I understand what you're saying.
I'm just laughing. That's all.
I know, but I was saying to myself, like, it won't stop. Like, no matter what rationalism, it wouldn't stop. And even after, so I'm like, the only thing I could do is threaten them. Right, like, and be like, "This is it."
Look,
and I would have went there too. I would have done.
No, I know you would have, and I'm not dogging you out. I'm just saying you used the word vicious and then what you said. So I just thought that was kind of funny. I agree.
Well, I know you got to get off a little early, Dwayne. So like in 2 or 3 minutes. So John, let's just quickly. I pulled up the book. What the heck was that? That was my shredder, my paper shredder.
Yeah, I didn't see a way for me. I didn't see a way for me to share a link or anything. But
I put the link in already. Okay. It's in this chat. So I put the book because when I pulled your book up today, boom, it came right up. So I wrote it, embrace your awesome, and that's all I had to put up, and boom, right there.
Great.
So it's now, I guess it's all set up in Amazon and ready to go. So I'm excited about it, and you have a few reviews already too, which I love.
Hey, John.
I haven't been on today, so.
How are you marketing this book, or are you marketing this book?
No, I'm really not. You got any tips? Send them to me.
Well, yeah. Well, one, I would talk to Ron Sell and ask him to, write a post about it, send him a book or whatever. But have him write a post about it in the Spark forums and those type of things, definitely, because there's a lot of school owners that are in there, and you're a very respected school owner, so. Just from those posts, somebody that actually knows you and already respects you would probably, at the very least, buy the book for themselves to start with. So I would utilize, a lot of people in the industry, so I would utilize that opportunity. And anybody else that that has podcasts, I would contact them and ask them to be a part of a podcast. This isn't a martial arts podcast, but I've been on his podcast a few times. Geyston. Flame.
Yeah. Jason Flame.
Yeah. I've been on his podcast a few times. I know that he's kind of booked out until like next year, but he may squeeze you in early or whatever, but that might be an option as well. But yeah, I would do that. This is something that I think I know based upon what we've talked about, I haven't read it yet, that would be beneficial to a lot of school owners and also their students. And then I don't know, since it's not a martial arts book, see, where do you live again? Tampa. So, and then also in Illinois, around Springfield, yes, right? Yeah. Look up different boutiques, women's boutiques, and see if you can't get your book as like an impulse item there and give them a really good deal on that.
Okay.
And parents forums on Facebook too. All the moms and pops of your town post those books because that's where they'll, parents might look it up.
The whole boutique thing was, I had listened to a lady who had done an interview from Joe Polish, who is from I Love Marketing and Genius Network and those type of things. But her claim to fame was she wrote a book of, I think it's like a gimmick book, but I mean, it sold so much. But basically the book was, everything that women need to know about their men, or no, everything that men need to know about their women, whatever it was. I forget what it was, but it was an impulse thing. She went to boutiques and then it's sitting there on the counter. They're paying, oh, hey, what is this? And then she just sold. So I've been thinking for myself, like, man, I need to come up with a book just for women's boutiques that would be interesting to them. So that might be an option for you.
Yeah, no, perfect.
Awesome. And it's Christmas time's coming up. So if you can get into some of those opportunities before Christmas, then you have a lot of impulse buys.
Great.
Awesome.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So Dwayne, you want to close it up? And John, thank you so much again. And I'm going to set up another date for the future to be on the other sister podcast that we have with Gus. So we'll get you out there on that one as well. We have very similar memberships, but there are some that just do one and some that just do the other. So we'll get you out to those people as well.
And I can get, and I'll hook us up with you and I'll hook you up with Geyston and see what he has.
Yeah. But I think I was on Geyston, so I might have his contact. Let me look.
Okay, just let me know if you don't.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And then drop me, Dwayne, please drop me your home address. I want to send you a book.
No, I'll get on Amazon and buy it, but thank you. So I got you. Hey, I know how it is. So anyways, everyone go to Amazon, Embrace Your Awesome. It's by John Geyston, and it's Geyston. And John is spelled John, just so that you know.
Yes.
All right. Awesome, guys. Have a great day.
Sir. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. They can be reached at eliteinsights.com. Add Health Coaching, helping school owners create a new and easy to implement revenue stream for your school. Visit addhealthcoaching.com. Lead Hunter Media, your online digital marketer and content provider. Visit leadhuntermedia.com. Academy Kings Growth Consulting and Management Group. They can be reached at academykings.com. And Spark Membership, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. They can be reached at sparkmembership.com. We will see you next time.